Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to our morning coffee time for Tuesday. I don't know where that came from. July the 28th. How is everyone this morning? So I got a little news this morning that Ajahn Sona will be doing a talk on this Saturday, 4 p.m. time on the West Coast in North America. So you can adjust that for your time zone if you're somewhere else. It's a talk hosted by the Thai Buddhist Council, although I'm blanking on their official name. And if you look in the very top of the chat window today, I put a link there to the posting that came from Birkin's email list. And if you're not on Birkin's email list, why not? It's one of the few sources of good news in the world. And good opportunities. So go to birkin.ca and there's a link there for that as well. And scroll down to the bottom and there's a little window there where you can sign up for that. It was nice having Ajahn Sona here yesterday, and I guess things worked out well enough. We should be content with what we get in terms of the sound and the image. There is an effort. It might take a little while to get some cleaner audio versions of those up on Ajahn's podcast feed. So you might look for that sometime in the coming weeks. Kind of record audio from both sides and through the magic of editing, put together something that sounds better than what we're able to do live. So hopefully that'll be available for people that are interested in that. And it's a shame we only have one more of these with Ajahn, but I suppose we could always invite him back for no good reason at all, except for his wisdom and good cheer. So, So this morning, after I got the basics ready for the morning meditation, and made myself a cup of coffee, I sat down on a bench in the Hermitage house in a place I don't normally sit, and breaking kind of my normal habit of doing a little bit of walking meditation before going to the shrine room to join Venerable Rakito for some sitting and chanting. And sitting there, it dawned on me the value of breaking habits sometimes, and just taking a step back. Habits are a curious thing. In some ways, they're all too easy to form, and in other ways, they're very difficult. At least the ones that we want sometimes are very difficult to get going. And then they can be interrupted by so many almost chance things, like think of what it takes to motivate yourself to start some new exercise routine, and all the ways that gets interrupted. The season changes, the weather's no good, you have an injury, something in your family or work life changes, or maybe even you just have a moment of doubt and discouragement, thinking it's not going as well as all one would wish for it to go or hope for it to go. And all of a sudden that habit is just kind of broken. And it's very strange. And then there's other kind of like bad habits that we just slide into. You don't even know how they get started. Like even verbal tics. I kind of picked up a habit of chewing on my lip a number of years ago that I can't seem to break. And as far as I can tell, it was just there was somebody living in the monastery I was at who had this habit, and somehow I just subconsciously picked it up from them. I don't know that I ever did that before. And then all of a sudden I just had this kind of bad habit that I couldn't break. It reminds me of an old dog I had, actually. That's a curious thing. How these habits come and go, and in some sense how hard they are, how easy they are to form, and then how easily they're broken. But this morning, I wasn't actually reflecting on that. I just took a step back from a very small habit I have of doing a little bit of walking meditation before I go and sit in the morning. Sat in an unusual place, seeing an unusual or unhabitual view out the windows. And it kind of stimulated something in my mind, just like, wow, it's so nice just to sit someplace unusual from time to time, and so valuable just to kind of take a step back. It's like you see yourself, you see your habits, you see your routines, you see the world in just slightly a different way. And I started thinking about the value of how meditation offers us an opportunity like that, and a very profound one. The more skillful we are in our meditative skill and habits and ability, and you could say these deep states of serenity that we've been talking about are the ultimate disengagement and stepping back. You're literally escaping the realm of Mara for a little bit, escaping the sense realm. And you get a very clear and different perspective on the experience of consciousness. And in particular, on this theme of self and unsatisfactoriness, one that's hard to gain sort of when we're in the thick of it. It's good every once in a while just to go out into the forest and sit under a tree, or go out into your backyard and lay on your back in the grass and look up at the sky. It's like a posture, a position, a place you're unaccustomed to. But I think the real value is just in disengaging and stepping back. Like, so much of our waking hours are consumed by our obsessions and our compulsions and the stuff of life, the things that we're so caught up in, engaged in, and creating some sort of space and a habit of learning to disengage in a very skillful and full and profound way has just great value. And it's something that I think most human societies recognize in all kinds of ways. I mean, I guess that's part of the reasoning behind having holidays, vacations, and more importantly, something like a day off, a Sabbath, a holy day, a day of retreat, where you profoundly disengage from being and becoming and seeking, and channel your energies towards the psychological and spiritual well-being of yourself. So if you don't have such a habit, consider experimenting with the value that might bring to your life. Pick a day of the week. It doesn't have to be Sunday. It doesn't have to be the lunar half moon, but that's the Buddhist tradition. The full and new moon, so the half-month cycles are what we call the big one pras. And the quarter phases of the moon, this is the Buddhist Sabbath, are the uposatha. But even more simply, maybe just go out and lay on your back in the grass today and disengage for a little bit and see how far you can take that. And see what you can see. It's like this contemplative habit that we're trying to cultivate. It's very interesting. It's like, it's not something you can completely just will or force. We have to develop certain kind of conditions and a kind of lightness and spaciousness, like the spaciousness that allows you to disengage and to take a breath and not pick up your phone or think about anything whatsoever, and center yourself in the present moment experience, the fullness of the present moment experience of mind and body. And when we're attentive and quiet, sometimes the most subtle and amazing new perspectives kind of bubble up for contemplation, inspiration even. So a few thoughts stimulated by my morning. What is on everyone else's mind here? Good morning, Eleanor. What to do when you are with people who talk badly about others? Should we just listen to them silently or say something so they stop talking like that? Well, there's a couple things that one might do. And you need to assess the situation. Sometimes it might seem fruitful, and your relationship with the people you're with who are speaking badly might be such that you can give them a gentle encouragement to kind of move on to other subjects, sometimes in very direct ways. Like you can just say, without agitation or ill will, but out of kindness, let's not dwell on that. I'd rather talk about something else. Or shan't we talk about something else? Or you can just say, sometimes you can honestly just say, I feel uncomfortable. And just sitting here bad-mouthing others. And sometimes people are open to that, more so than you would think. But if not, you could just remove yourself from the situation. If you can't remove yourself from the situation, then you can draw inwards and attend to something more skillful in your own mind. But also, like, if it's not appropriate to do that or you can't do that, sometimes these are good opportunities just to contemplate sort of good and evil, what is skillful and unskillful. Like it's an interesting opportunity just to contemplate externally the harm in bad speech, wrong speech, and the value in good speech. And you might consider, like, why are they talking like that? Is it out of anger? Is it out of ill will? Is it to inflate themselves? Sometimes we talk down about other people to kind of prop ourselves up through comparison and contrast. So it could offer a contemplative moment. And immediately, like if you switch into that space, it has a very different effect on your mind. All of a sudden, it's this opportunity to sort of contemplate Dhamma. And that's a kind of skillfulness that provides a certain amount of protection for one from the actual content of the speech. So those are a few thoughts of things you can do. Should refrain out of scolding them out of anger. But if you can establish loving kindness in yourself and steer the conversation in a friendly way, in a more positive and skillful way, then that's good. Good morning, Scott. I was wondering if you had any thoughts on the Neuralink technology and where that rabbit hole could go. It seems like a new step in evolution. Would we ever even be Homo sapien anymore? Well, I don't know all that much about Neuralink. I believe it's a company that Elon Musk founded or helped found, and they're pursuing some sort of mind interface, brain interface technology. And I think the early thing is to help people with various disabilities overcome things. But I did see in part of an interview where he was talking about where it might go eventually, and there's some notion that they could get it to some place where maybe we wouldn't even need to speak. We could somehow communicate mind to mind using this technology, and it can enhance other sort of things, other kind of mental qualities in various ways. I think I need to know more about it to say anything wise about it. But where where could we go down that rabbit hole? Well, I don't know. The Buddhist sense of a being, and in Buddhist cosmology, there are realms where bodies are important, and there are realms where bodies are not important. So, I think one could build a case that one could escape the human realm and consciousness could reside in something else. But I think we're a long ways away from that kind of technology. I think people underestimate how profoundly they don't yet understand the mind, or they overestimate. So, Hi, Charles. It looks like the link to Ajahn Sudanto's talk is truncated. I tested it out, so it might be shortened, but please, somebody click on it and let me know if it works. So I tested it out after I put it in there, and it seemed to work for me. So it might just display it in a truncated form, but when you click on it, it actually takes you someplace. And following up on routines, how do we know if we should force ourselves to stick to a routine or let it go just to be more flexible about it? Daily meditation should not be let go of, I guess. Well, the criterion that's always advocated by the Buddha is whether or not something is harmful or beneficial. So we're looking at it from the value or the skillfulness that particular routine or habit is bringing us. And if it's skillful, then we should try to strengthen it, maintain it, nourish the habit. And if it's not, then we should resolve it. The way to be flexible about it is always to focus on the deeper value in it, so that one isn't rigid and one can adjust. So here's times where you might have to let go of daily meditation due to sickness or busyness or something. There's a delicate balance between being firm and guarding goodness, guarding your skillfulness, and being rigid. So good morning, Andrew. So Andrew brings us a nice quote from the Samyutta Nikaya 2253 on engagement. One who is engaged is unliberated. One who is disengaged is liberated. Be interesting to see what the Pali is there. Like what engaged is translating. Whether that's upadana or something else would be interesting to look up. Every moon observance day, I made the adhiṭṭhāna not to listen to media and to meditate for 4 hours. Sadhu. That's great, Moria. That sounds like a good habit. Very skillful. Samrit, good morning. Does one experience the existence of celestial beings like devas as one progresses in meditation? Not necessarily, and I would say it's probably exceedingly rare. But based on one's past karma and one's inclination and various factors, one might develop such an ability. So my teachers have never emphasized that. None of my teachers. In fact, my first teacher, Ajahn Buddhadasa, said, if you want to develop wisdom, you should set aside any aspiration for psychic and spiritual powers. It will be an obstacle. It's something to that effect. I can't remember exactly. But there was some curiosity that I had at that point. And I remember sort of thinking, it's a bit childish, really. What I really want is to learn how to be a skillful and happy human being and to understand Dhamma. So I'll set that aside. If it should happen, I suppose it'd be a useful tool in your toolbox. But I haven't spent any time pursuing it. Good morning, Nadine. You've talked a few times about the inner sense and the mind sense space. Same thing? Can you speak about what you understand about the mind as a sense base? Thank you. I have a very subjective and simple way of relating to mind to sense base. Like, obviously, there is the faculty to know something with the mind. And this confused me for the first couple of years that I was a monk. And, I studied the text and asked questions of teachers, and still it kind of eluded me. And part of the reason it felt elusive as was like, as looking to apprehend mind in the same way that I would relate to other more concrete nouns. Like, I wanted the mind to be a thing, a discernible thing. In the same way that we think about the eye and the eye faculty. But the mind is different. And even through modern science, there's a lot of confusion about where the boundaries of the mind exist if we're going to talk about it as a thing. I guess a simple way of thinking about it, just from from the perspective of anatomy and biology, is it's the brain and the central nervous system. But I think the Buddhist conception of mind is more than that. So, in a way, I not to tie myself up in knots, the mind is that which can know. The mind is that which can think. You have to have a base for the experience. So, mind and mind objects. But mind isn't something we can apprehend like the eye, but there is obviously this faculty of mind that can know. It can know, it can have a memory, it can have a perception, it can have a thought, it can experience an emotion, it can generate a volition. So I just think about it as this kind of faculty which I can't image, but that subjectively I know the experience of. And because emotions and impressions and perceptions and volitions and thoughts are all things that come and go, we can think of the mind as the base or the foundation that's supporting the experience of that. The Buddhist conception of consciousness or sense consciousness is, again, you have a base and an object, and with contact, consciousness arises. So mind consciousness arises. Eye consciousness arises. Ear consciousness arises, or sound consciousness arises based on the ear and sounds. So, and I might be wrong, but that seems sufficient for a practitioner. I don't believe we need to know a lot more. Okay, and here's a suggestion to see Donna Haraway and how we become post-human. I'm not so interested in being post-human. Post-dukkha, that's what I want. I want to go beyond dukkha, not being human. And it'd be nice to go beyond dukkha while I'm still human. Okay, and Eleanor attests the link works, Charles. Lord help us if Elon starts reading Abhidhamma. Yeah. Thanks, Zuri, for looking that up for us. So that's the Pali for Andrew's quote before about disengagement. Upayo bhikkhave avimutto anupayo vimutto. So vimutti is freedom, and is a synonym for enlightenment. So of avimutto would be unfree, meaning unenlightened, and vimutto is enlightened. So anupayo. So upayo is the word that was used for engagement here. Interesting. Upayo bhikkhave avimutto anupayo vimutto. Upayo bhikkhave. Interesting. I should take a look. Okay, maybe just quickly two more, and then I have to get on with my morning here. Can you talk more? Zuri says, can you talk a little more about backsliding? I found your opening reflections very encouraging. Yeah, don't do it. The Buddha says, watch out for that. Until we attain stream entry, there is no security. So, one needs to be very heedful and careful in developing in faith, in virtue, in generosity, and developing the mind, developing the higher mind in particular. And, until one reaches the security of some stage of enlightenment, it's, we are liable. It could all fall apart with a change in conditions. And that could be a change in health, in the environment, some sort of cognitive or psychological change that we undergo. So, and there's quite a few places in the suttas where the Buddha warns the monks and nuns against backsliding. All right, well, I'm going to leave it at that for today. If I didn't get to any of your questions, please come on back tomorrow for our Wednesday morning coffee, says. So, wish you all well, and take a little time to disengage today. If you haven't done so already, go find a unfamiliar corner of your house or the world or the forest, or lay on your back and disengage for a little bit and try to get some perspective. And I'll see you all tomorrow morning. Be well, friends. Bye for now.